Hey everyone, Get That Small here. Today we're talking with Alec Shaw and Subhajit Ray from Sperax. We're going to cover the Sperax DAO, USDS, which is their decentralized stablecoin with built-in rewards, Demeter, which is their farming as a service infrastructure on Uniswap V3, and this will be a twofer for all you founders in the audience, because first, you'll get to learn from Sperax's journey building on Arbitrum themselves. And second, we're going to explore how you can use Demeter, their farm building tool, to quickly build liquidity within your own protocol, plus get marketing and financial support from the Sperax DAO. Could be an interesting tool for some of you. Now, Sperax is new to me, so no disclosures for today. I'll just say that I learned a ton on this one, and I think you will too. Here we go. Welcome to Ready Layer 2 with me, Get That Small. This is a podcast for the founders, innovators, and experimenters building the future of Web3 on Arbitrum. Today, I'm really excited to talk with the good folks from Sperax. I'm here with Alec Shaw and Subhajit Ray. We're going to learn all about Sperax, stablecoins, and the other products that they're working on. I'm going to start off here first with Alec. Alec Shaw, welcome to the show, and please give the audience just a quick background.
First off, I'm Alec Shaw. I do growth here at Sperax, and before joining the Sperax team, I first got exposed to crypto as an undergraduate at Marquette University. I was studying finance. It was a new, unregulated, rapidly growing market, so we started a trading club, which turned into more of a consulting firm. We ended up hosting some large conferences. So I'm both on the kind of financial side as well as on the community building side. After working at the university for a couple of years, helping students get introduced to blockchain, help them get some jobs in the space, I joined Sperax in 2020 to help them grow their new stablecoin product.
Very nice. And Subhajit Ray, welcome, and same for you, a quick intro.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us. Before leading product and strategy at Sperax, I was lead product for Trust Token and TrueFi. TrueFi is the first uncollateralized lending platform, and Trust Token is the issuer of TUSD, one of the largest fiat-backed stablecoins. Before that, I have more than 6 years of experience in consumer tech startups, donning multiple hats across products. And I have been an entrepreneur myself, starting and selling multiple companies in the past. And the Sperax journey has been amazing for the last roughly around 1.5 years now. We launched the stablecoin, we launched Demeter, and there are multiple products that we are planning to launch in the coming quarter. Yeah, so with that, I will end my short intro.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And Alec, why don't you give us a quick background? You mentioned the stablecoin product. Sperax is doing a bunch of other stuff. Give us a quick overview on what is Sperax, what do you guys do, and who do you do it for?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sperax, the actual humans that are the core contributors, we're a software development shop. Sperax USD, the DAO, is an on-chain protocol that is built on the Arbitrum 1, the open source blockchain. And it is a stablecoin protocol that features a decentralized stablecoin with a built-in interest rate. So anyone who's holding this product can harness the power of DeFi and get an interest rate on their stablecoins without having to stake it, without having to claim it, or really without having to be a crypto expert. And something very important to note is under the hood, this product is effectively a automation tool, and this is important to note because USDS is always 100% collateralized, and it's not doing anything risky. All it is automating the process for new users to do the clicks and to deploy the stablecoins in such a way that they can earn yield. So our product is designed for risk-averse crypto investors that don't want to particularly go and monitor positions themselves. They just want a simple, passive stablecoin that can give them a healthy interest rate. They're not looking to go degenerate long on the newest small cap token.
Got it. So you're doing the work for me to get me a little bit of yield. How would you compare USDS to, say, just holding USDC on Coinbase or something like that?
Yeah, of course. Holding USDC in Coinbase, beyond the fact that you're allowing someone else to custody your funds for you, you're not being given any sort of interest rate. So when holding USDS, and the way that you would get USDS is by minting one using your USDC, or purchasing it with your USDC on an exchange. Once you swap the USDC for USDS, your USDS will be growing in interest, but that interest is generated from your USDC that you use to mint it. So the interest rate is 100% organic. And if you wanted to, you could go get yield on that USDC yourself, but it's pretty complicated. Right. So the users that typically do it themselves are more crypto native, and we've built this product to allow the newer crypto entrant to also get the yield on that USDC, but not have to be like deep in the weeds like you or I.
Sure. No, that's pretty cool. So then, and then how does that yield accumulate? Does my USDS balance just slowly increase over time?
Yeah, great question. So anyone holding USDS in their wallet, they will be effectively airdropped more units of USDS every 7 to 10 days. So it is on a random cadence, but over the course of a year, it averages out to be around 7 to 10 days. And the source of yield is very important because it's 100% organic. So as I mentioned, for every USDS that's out in the market, there's at least one stablecoin sitting in our reserves. And the reserves will actually, they'll be allocated to very secure and trusted DeFi protocols such as Curve. And when they're in Curve, they'll collect transaction fees. They'll collect various tokens that Curve offers. They'll swap those tokens for more units of USDS. And then that USDS will be airdropped. Technically, it's called a rebase, but they'll be distributed to anyone holding USDS in their wallet.
The problem you were trying to solve, well, it sounds like there's a couple of facets there. One being allowing folks to keep their coins in self-custody. That was the first thing you pointed out. Obviously, a fair one with the holding anything on a centralized exchange. We've all seen the pain that could be involved with that very recently. So you're allowing us to do self-custody, but still earn interest in our own wallets without having to do any additional work. When Sperax set out to build this thing, were those the problems that they were solving, or are there any other things that you were going after?
Yeah, primarily we are very passionate about users custodying their own assets. So we wanted to really prioritize on that as a pillar of our product focus. But then also we observed that most of these newer entrants in 2021 that were crypto curious, particularly wanted to get some exposure, but maybe weren't interested in spot writing Ether Bitcoin. What they were doing is they were putting their capital in things like Celsius. So this was advertised as a very risk-off product. You keep your principal in USD, and you earn a nice interest rate, 8 to 10%. Yeah. But we clearly learned that there was a lot of nefarious things going on under the hood and behind closed doors over at Celsius. And what we can do with USDS is we can deliver a similar experience, but one, we can do it in such a way where users always custody their funds, and two, we can do it in a hyper-transparent way. So at any given point, anyone can go to app.sperax.io and go validate themselves that there's adequate reserves to back each and every USDS outstanding. So instead of having to trust these executives at these centralized institutions where they're offering your yield, you're then just going to rely on trusted open source smart contracts to facilitate the strategies on your behalf. So it's a very, very different mechanism, but for the end user, it's really what they thought they were getting when putting their money into Celsius.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. I like that. Okay, very cool. So Sperax, the dev shop, effectively works for Sperax, the DAO. The DAO is going to set strategies on basically how to deploy the collateral, the USDCs and Ts and everything else and DAI that they might use as collateral. And then Sperax, the dev shop's going to implement those changes to the protocol and deploy them. Is that a good way to look at it?
Yeah, you got that exactly right.
Okay, perfect.
We do the discussions through a governance forum. So if there's a new recommended strategy, either the Sperax team or a community member basically analyze the strategy. We will present the performance of the strategy. We'll look at our various risk metrics, including liquidity and our ability to close the positions. And then the community assesses whether or not we would like to allocate some of the capital from the reserves into that strategy. So it's a very, very public and transparent process. And any user who doesn't like a new strategy that's being introduced always has the autonomy and the agency to go and redeem their underlying collateral. There are no lockups. There's no ability for the Sperax team to block a withdrawal.
Got it. Very cool. And does Sperax, the dev shop, do you guys do work only for the Sperax protocol and the Sperax DAO, or are there things that you work on outside of that?
We only contribute to the Sperax DAO.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Now, so we talked a bunch about the stablecoin there. I know you got some other offerings and new products and whatnot coming out. Shub, why don't you jump in here and tell us about some of the other interesting things you guys got going on?
Sure, sounds good. One of the important things that we built is Demeter. Demeter is a no-code liquidity mining incentive launcher. That's quite a mouthful, right? To simplify it, I mean, it allows anyone, literally anyone, without any coding experience to launch an incentivized liquidity mining campaign on top of Uniswap V3 pools right now. In future, anyone can launch incentivized liquidity mining campaign over other pools across other DEXs as well. The goal of Demeter is to become a DEX liquidity manager for protocols, where any new token coming into the platform can launch their token and immediately gain some traction, gain some liquidity through multiple avenues through Demeter. Now, with Demeter, we also have, so what we talked about so far was mostly Demeter providing support in terms of the underlying technology, because you don't need to learn coding and stuff like that. But Sperax will also help new projects who are launching, or any project who is launching incentivized liquidity mining campaign with Demeter, with marketing and financial support as well. So if you
nice.
launch your token with Demeter, we will promote you on our front end, we will promote you on our media channels, and we will reach out to our community to let them know about your token and about your product. And how do we provide financial support? Effectively speaking, any protocol which pairs their token against our tokens, basically either USDS or SPA, will get a matching incentive for the next, it's only live for the next 20 days, but eventually that rule will pass on to the gauge and the pricing mechanism. More on that later, but you can think of it like if you're launching incentivized liquidity mining campaign using Demeter, then you essentially don't need to know any kind of coding, or you don't need to build your own farm contracts. So you can launch it using a UI. Your users get a nice clean UI, and we're also building a profile page for protocols which you can integrate with your own dApp or with your own UI, so that your users can do liquidity mining over there. And apart from that, you're also getting marketing support and financial support in terms of equal emissions. So that is one of the products that we are building. Currently have integrations with Uniswap V3, but we are planning to integrate with Swapfish, Trader Joe, Camelot, Saddle, all the prominent DEXs that are available on Arbitrum right now.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
So let me just
Any
jump in with a
questions
few
so far?
questions quick.
Yeah.
Just help me better understand. Give me an example of an incentivized liquidity mining campaign. Like, if you give a specific one that's actually been launched on your platform, that'd be best. Or if you could just walk me through, what am I trying to do if I'm launching one of those?
Great question. So I'll give you two examples. One of the first examples that I will share is of a small team called HandleFi. They are no longer small right now, but yeah. So HandleFi had a token called FXUSD. It's their USD derivative token. And so for FXUSD, they did not have any coin gecko page, because FXUSD literally did not have a lot of trading activity, and it was becoming very difficult for them, right, to get a coin gecko page if there isn't any trading activity. So what they decided to do was they wanted to launch a Demeter farm with us, and they launched farm for FX USDS pair. They went to Uniswap V3. They created the pool for FX USDS. In Uniswap V3, you have to specify, along with the pair, you have to specify the fee tier. So they specified a fee tier of 0.05%. And then they came to Demeter. They launched a liquidity mining incentive campaign on top of it with just like 4 or 5 clicks. and it was live. And then users started depositing FXUSD and USDS on the farm. They were mining both Sperax tokens, they were mining their Forex tokens, and the farm was emitting a healthy APR. And the farm, I think, reached real at its high point of around 250K, if I'm not wrong. And within, I think, 24 hours or 48 hours of launching the liquidity mining campaign, the token achieved significant trading activity, which allowed them to get listed on CoinGecko. So this is how we are helping new projects who want to go live and launch tokens.
Very
And
cool.
this is just one example. Another example is
Real quick,
GMX.
before you move off that example,
Yeah.
can you tell me, without Demeter, how would they have to, what would they have to have gone about to do that process? Would there be a lot more steps? Would it be like, specifically, what was the benefit of using Demeter in that scenario?
A great question. So, if you are not launching it on Demeter, now there are two aspects to it, right? First, we have open sourced the complete code. So, if you want, you can always fork it and launch your own farms using our tech. But in that case, you wouldn't get financial or marketing support. But please feel to do that as well. So that is relatively simple, right? You don't have to do anything in that case. You would still need a strong dev shop or engineer to implement the code, but it should not take too much of your time, maybe a week's work. So that is one way to go about. The other thing, if you want to start from scratch, like if you are building a Uniswap V3 farm from scratch, then depending on your team's bandwidth, it might not be your focus, right? You might
Mm-hmm.
be a protocol which does something else entirely. Let's say you are a yield automation protocol, or you are a stablecoin, or you are, I don't know what. I mean, so endless possibilities in the
Right.
crypto world, right? You could be a gaming platform, right? So
Sure.
for you to build or focus on creating a farm contract from scratch would take a significant amount of your bandwidth, right? And
Right.
you would have to invest significant amount of engineering bandwidth, significant amount of product bandwidth on that. So that would be very expensive for you rather than just spinning up a farm using our UI instantly within a few clicks and by just paying $100. So
Got it.
effectively speaking, we have automated the process of launching incentivized liquidity mining campaigns on Uniswap V3 for now and on future decks, and future or multiple dexes basically. So that essentially solves your problem of acquiring
Got it.
dex liquidity. So if you're doing it yourself, as I said, like it's more about like how much time we are saving for you.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. That makes total sense. And then, so the incentives are coming from the fees that are being generated by the exchange. Is that right?
So the fees that is generated from the exchange directly goes to the liquidity providers. Like we don't take a cut on that, or the protocols don't get a cut on that. The incentives are coming from our treasury. Now the question is, why are we giving this incentive? So that actually relates to our first product, which is Sperax USD. So anyone pairing against USDS or SPA, or basically a governance token, gets these incentives. And why do they get these incentives? Is because one of the primary functionality of a stablecoin is to be liquid, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
you're pairing your token against our token, then you're increasing the liquidity of our token. And for that, our DAO basically incentivizes for you.
Got it. And
So
the treasury is being funded by the low risk investment strategies that you're deploying on behalf of the holders of USDS in the first place.
you got it right partially. So
Okay.
essentially, the treasury that we're talking about is a Sperax treasury, which is just holding Sperax tokens as such. The earnings that the Sperax protocol does actually goes back to the VSPA holders, or it is distributed to the Sperax DAO directly. Yeah. So in a way, it is related. But if you think about it, the Sperax treasury is just consists of the Sperax token, which is also governed by Sperax DAO. So yeah, I
Right.
mean, if you think about it, the Sperax DAO has to take calculative decisions, right? So the Sperax DAO now has to decide which farm should I give emissions towards. And those decisions will determine how much liquidity can USDS generate. And the greater the liquidity of USDS, the greater the amount of collateral that is locked in our vaults. Again, greater the amount of collateral that is locked in our vault, the greater the yield that we are generating by investing them in certain yield strategies.
Right.
And using that yield, what we are doing, we are passing that yield back to again the Sperax DAO. So it's completely circular. The loop is
Yeah.
like built
Yeah,
in
I
a
could see
way
that.
such that it drives value towards the protocol.
So going back to this first example, then these HandleFi folks, they needed to launch a farm, or they wanted to launch a farm because their goal was to increase trading activity, get on the Get a Coin Gecko listing, and by coming to you, it sounds like they really got a whole lot here, right? Like you automated the setup of that pool and of that farm, but you also incentivized it. It sounds like a tremendous amount of upside for a potential customer to use you guys to set that platform up. Are there, like, what's the counter to that? Are there downsides to it? Are there additional risks they're taking on? What is the counter to all that benefit they're getting?
Yes, in terms of risk associated with it would be like they are obviously taking smart contract risk, but our
Right.
smart contracts are audited and it has seen the test of time. Like these contracts have been live for more than a year. Apart from that, I believe in terms of pairing against USDS, you are restricting yourself to this token itself. That could be one counter. So you can maybe launch a ETH farm or a USDC farm, which are a bit more liquid and popular tokens. But you can even do that on Demeter. Like we don't restrict that, hey, you have to only launch farms against USDS. You can even launch a USDC or a ETH farm on using Demeter. You just pay a slightly higher fee for that.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay, very
that's
cool.
all I
No,
can
it
think of.
definitely sounds like it could be a useful option to somebody who's in that situation. Now, I took you off on this very long tangent here. You were trying to get to a second example, so why don't we loop back to that? What was that one?
Yeah, second example is from a very large player, the largest player probably in the Arbitrum ecosystem, GMX. So GMX, obviously being a very big team and they have huge engineering resources and stuff like that. But they still felt that they wanted to experiment with incentivized liquidity mining campaign to see if it works for them. And they did not probably want to spend significant engineering resources in building that out themselves. So they explored this opportunity with us and they launched GMX USDS farm. And that has been like one of the most successful farms in the Demeter ecosystem. Overall, it accounts for more than 500K worth of TPL. And it is probably the only opportunity for RB nodes to earn GMX tokens currently. There is probably no other way for RB nodes to earn GMX tokens. You can buy GMX tokens, but I don't think they're giving out incentives like that anywhere
Okay,
else.
very interesting. And what problem were they originally trying to solve? Was it just an experiment for them? Were they just, why did they want to do it in the first place?
Yeah, I think they wanted to see. So they mostly have protocol owned liquidity, right? I think protocol owned liquidity has its upsides and downsides. So they were exploring what are the other avenues for increasing liquidity or improving the liquidity of the token.
Got it.
And
Okay,
we hit it off from
awesome.
the first instant. And yeah.
No, that's super interesting. Yeah, thank you for that. And I think the founders listening here could potentially find some value in that for sure. So thank you for going through all that. Let's talk a bit about your Arbitrum experience in particular. Now, you guys are only on Arbitrum, is that right?
Yeah. So the major governance token is actually on Ethereum. We
Okay.
moved it to Arbitrum using a bridge, using the native bridge. So this is just to make sure that we are flexible and so that eventually, let's say we want to build on other chains, we can do so because Ethereum is a mother chain, right? So everyone
Right.
builds a bridge on Ethereum.
Makes
Having
sense.
said that, we are one of the initial protocols on Arbitrum. We are like the first on Arbitrum for a lot of things, right? But yeah, so our focus has been on the Arbitrum side, and right now we are deeply focused on growing with Arbitrum as well.
Very good. What made you come to Arbitrum first?
They had a very good team. They were able to answer all our questions. They supported us in our initial protocol development. The gas costs are low. Of course, that is one of the
Hmm.
major reasons why any DeFi protocol is interested in moving into Arbitrum. The transaction speeds are very good if you're coming from Ethereum. And the other reason being like from engineering standpoint, there is not a lot of difference between deploying contracts on Ethereum and deploying contracts on Arbitrum. From engineering standpoint, it was relatively simpler to build on Arbitrum as compared to, let's say, other chains.
Hmm.
And yeah, so they had very good support. They are giving us very good marketing support as well. And I think overall, as an ecosystem also, like Arbitrum is very inclusive and supportive of each other. Like we have established very good relationships with GMX, Plutus, all the other top DeFi protocols on Arbitrum.
Yeah, when we were considering launching on, what layer 1 or layer 2 we were going to launch on, we needed cheap transaction fees so our stablecoin would remain stable and pegged at $1. Because if it's expensive, no one will arbitrage it back to $1. So we needed the cheap transaction fees. But then the next question was, okay, a lot of these alternative layer 1s or layer 2s do have cheap transaction fees, but what are you sacrificing for these cheap transaction fees? And for any solution that was in the alternative layer 1 camp, think Avalanche, Solana, whatever, Polygon, all of them use new validator sets. So it's a new blockchain consensus. It's a new infrastructure that hasn't been tried and proven out like Ethereum. So we were attracted to censorship resistance that Ethereum could offer. And then when we learned about optimistic rollups, which we'd been monitoring for a couple of years, we were looking at Optimism and Arbitrum as the two real candidates because they borrowed the consensus from ETH Layer 1. But Optimism was operating a whitelist, and we applied for the whitelist, and they were basically ghosting us, where Arbitrum was extremely willing to welcome us into their ecosystem. There was no whitelist. They were making introductions, helping us with product design and mechanism design. It was just quite a different experience as we were approaching the two teams. So technically, Arbitrum offers us the fast transactions while borrowing Ethereum's security, and then the whole whitelist thing significantly weighed in as well.
Thinking back on the journey that you've been on here, what advice would you offer somebody else right now? If you're knowing what you know today and going back to the point in time where you were making the assessment about where you wanted to deploy, what advice would you give somebody else in that position right now? What would you tell them to look at? What would you tell them to think about? Or what might they be worrying about that you can tell them to that's not a big deal. Don't worry about that. Like, I just picture someone in those shoes, and what advice would you offer them when evaluating Arbitrum?
I would first off say that no one should be intimidating, and everyone has time to talk with you and to answer questions. And I hope the Arbitrum team is okay with me saying this, but they are even willing to do video calls with new projects that are even considering launching on Arbitrum. Mm-hmm. So if you think that there's a leader of a DAO that's intimidating, or a founder of a protocol who you believe you're maybe not qualified to speak with, or you may think they're too busy, Arbitrum is really an ecosystem of collaboration, both from a social side and political side of things with marketing, but also with doing things like token swaps amongst protocols and sharing liquidity amongst protocols. It's just really a collaborative environment, which I haven't seen in other Layer 1 protocols. You can even join, even if you're just curious, there are group chats where you can join with 100 Arbitrum curious DAOs. And you can introduce yourself. You can let other DAOs know how to engage with you. And it's just a very fun ecosystem. So don't get intimidated. Step 0 is get your foot in the door, introduce yourself to people. And at the end of the day, we're still running businesses here. We need to develop relationships, and Arbitrum is extremely high on that. They'll help you do it, and everyone's really excited to meet new Arbitrum builders.
Got it. So reach out. Don't be shy. Basically what Alec's saying here is reach out to folks like Alec and others in the ecosystem and ask them these questions, and ask them where you should be going and what resources you should be looking at. Outside of these Telegram groups and just reaching out to folks, are there resources that you might point somebody to say, if you go to this website or to this place, there's a lot of good resources that helped us a lot?
Arbitrum portal is a nice starting point. It's just this nice overview of the ecosystem. You can categorize the ecosystem by protocol type. So you can go to stablecoins, you'll find Sperax USDS under there. You can go to asset management, you'll find projects like Factor DAO and Index Coup.
That's awesome. Super helpful, and I think it jives with certainly a lot of the advice we're getting from other founders that we're talking to. I think the listener should be getting convinced that this is a place that you can come and you can interact with others and you can grow, and certainly that's been my experience as well. So the long and short of it here is that Sperax is offering a bunch of tools that other protocols and other founders can use if they have a need to incentivize certain activities, incentivize certain farming activities and whatnot. Definitely worth checking out. Alec and Shub, I really appreciate you taking the time and coming to share with us today. I definitely learned a lot. I'm pretty confident the listener's going to get a bunch out of this too. On the way out here, where can people go to connect with either of you online, learn more about the work that Sperax is doing, etc. Alec, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. You can find more information about Sperax on our landing page and our marketing website, which is sperax.io, Sperax.io. And there you can go to the application where you can actually mint USDS, which is app.sperax.io. And then to go explore Demeter. And if you're a farmer and you're interested in farming some of these Arbitrum blue chip tokens, you can go to demeter.sperax.io to start your farming. And then before I tune out, I got two more links. Go follow us on Twitter at SperaxUSD. And then on our landing site, you'll also find our Discord link. So be sure to go and join our Discord. We're very active. You can talk with myself and Sub directly. And if we're not there, we have a whole group of community managers and a community of interested DeFi degens ready to talk with you and help you through the space.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And Sub, anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think Alec pretty much covered it. I am personally not very active on any social media, including Twitter, but you will not see me posting. I'm mostly just following things. But I am extremely active on our Telegram channel and Discord. So if you want to have a constructive product discussion, if you have some ideas, or if you want to just get some help on launching a project or anything, just feel free to tag me and reach out to us on Discord and Telegram.
Awesome. Alec, Sub, thank you so much for sharing all the good work y'all are doing at Sperax. Really appreciate the time today, and the audience will too. Keep building, guys. We appreciate you. Thank you for listening to Ready Layer 2. If you're an Arbitrum builder with a story to share, then hit me up on Twitter at GitSmall, GITSMOL. Learn more at gitsmall.com.